keep the stream muted, that way it's not echoing, but
Okay. I'll start over then for you guys. All right, so starting back from square one, welcome to the Final Fantasy XIV PvPodcast. This is the first episode. My name is King Stefan. I will be your host. With me today is Marshall Renew, aka Cleanse. He is the founder of PvPodcast.com and also one of the main contributors. Also with me today is Sir Zarek, one of the top paladins on Aether, and also a very highly opinionated person when it comes to solo queue. So unfortunately, Steve Arthu, Dark Files, and Quest Mode could not make it today. However, we'll still be covering the same topics, and hopefully you guys can still get the same amount of stuff out of it. So without further ado, I'd like my guests to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about who they are, why you should care, and sort of what their involvement is in the PvP community. So Marshall, why don't you start us off?
sure. Hi, my name is Marshall. I am a healer. I've been PvPing probably since like the Seal Rock days, and yeah, that's it. I like Feast the most. I prefer Feast, and I also do web development. So that's kind of why I started PvPisa. I felt there was something I can contribute to the community, and that's pretty much it,
All right.
sir.
So I'm Sir Zarek. I am a primarily paladin main. I also just play tanks in general. Um, I've been PvPing in this game competitively since season one. I dabbled in front lines and Seal Rock and stuff, but never really took it as seriously as I do Feast. Uh, I'm one of the top-rated tank players. I've got a lot of opinions, as Stefan says, on various topics. And I think people should care about PvP in this game because it is a dynamic and competitive form of playing the game that doesn't just involve around memorizing a set rotation of mechanics and completing them until perfection. There's a lot of variables that goes into PvP. There's a lot of things you can do to improve yourself in PvP that you can't in PvE. And I think it's a very underrated and underappreciated form of the game that the community, I think, should really, at the very least, give a shot, which they don't seem to do.
All right. Thanks, guys. And actually, one of our missing guests, Quest Mode, just walked in, just woke up. So, to give him a brief introduction, Quest Mode is the leader of RareX, one of the premier endgame FCs on Balmung. We are also, or he's the leader of also, uh, one of the best PvP free companies on Balmung and on Aether in general. So he's going to be here to talk today about some of the upcoming events that RareX is going to be hosting and sponsoring. And Quest, if you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction yourself, feel free.
Hey, yeah. I'm Quest Mode. I'm mostly just a PvE player these days. I still dabble in PvP because I like to play everything that Final Fantasy has to offer because I enjoy the game. Um, because I play at a high level in PvE, it's what I tend to do in PvP as well. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus lately, but that's about it for now.
All right, so let's get started. Basically, today's topic for this episode, we're going to be talking about some of the content and the communities that the PvP community has come up with, specifically PvPPaisa.com for guides and discussions and news. We have the Team Tryhard Discord, to get in touch with other PvPers, um, talk about a variety of topics, and also the voice channels available to people there. And then to close off that community segment, myself and Quest are going to be talking about, the upcoming community-driven tournaments and events that we have in store for you guys. Talk about, the different styles of tournaments we're going to be hosting, the rewards you can be expecting for winning, and that should be pretty great. And then after, that's all said and done, at the end, we do want to talk about all of the upcoming changes coming with patch 3.5, what those changes are, how they're going to affect the PvP community, and how they are going to affect gameplay as a whole. So I think the first place that I would like to start off is talking about this podcast, what it's supposed to be, what it's going to be moving forward, what you guys can expect from it. So, first off, we're going to try to make this a weekly or a bi-weekly podcast. We're going to have a different topic every week. I'm going to try to bring on new guests every week. One of the main things we are going to talk about is going to be, specific, like job discussions. So, one week we're going to be talking about healing. We're going to be talking about white mages. Give people a perspective from some of the higher ranked players in the community to answer questions, talk about some tips and tricks, and overall educate the community a little bit more on how to play those jobs to their potential caps. One thing I do want to say is that I am very bad when it comes to the production value of things like this. So if you are good at YouTube, if you want to give us some intro music, something like that, if you're familiar with podcasts on iTunes, please reach out to me. There is some compensation involved, and I'd be happy to talk to you. So now that that's out of the way, I'd like to transition this into Marshall, if you want to talk a little bit about PvPaisa.
Sure, sounds good. All right. So PvPaisa, basically, after starting PvP in Final Fantasy, I realized that there is no really uh great source for informing yourself. Like you pretty much have to just go in there and be self-motivated to learn. There were some stuff on the official forums and Google Documents, but like I said, an, like an Arena Junkies type area from WoW. I came from WoW, so Arena Junkies is like a PvP community in WoW, and I figured, well, why not put my web development into use and make a website for the community. My goals with it, I just basically want it to be all community. Like everybody should contribute. I don't want to put any ads up. I don't want to put, I don't want to sell out. Nothing like that. It's just straight up information to make our community better because we are such a small community in the game. So right now, what we have on the website is we have feast rankings, like overall the data centers. Like you can see where you stack up against, like, mana, etc. We also have like PvP streamers highlighted on the side of our website. So if you're a PvP streamer and you're not listed on the website, you can always contact me and I'll put you up no matter what. We have forums. It seems like the current trend for the web is forums are kind of dead, and like Discord's kind of filling that role. But the forums are there, and if you just want to post something, I try to check it at least once a day to help out. If I can't answer the question, I'll try to ask somebody that's more knowledgeable to just give somebody some information. So that's kind of what the general content we have now, on top of articles. So we do have articles related to some feast stuff and a little bit of frontlines. I wish we had more frontline guides, especially for this next week, and that's where you guys hopefully can help us out. We also have just like news and general gearing and other guides, just like whatever we can think of. We're gonna try to put it out there for you guys to help you out. So yeah, we could use content creators. If like you contribute quite a bit, like I can definitely help you guys out. If you guys want like Fantasias or anything like that. But like I said, if possible, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Sir?
That's a good incentive.
Yeah, like I mean, like for the most part, like it's just like I would hope that you guys as the PvP community want to make your games better. Like when we queue in the feast and we have people that don't know how to play the role as well as you, maybe writing up a little bit of a guide or something that can help them next time that they queue into you or queue with you, just to make the overall experience better for everybody. That's kind of like the main goal of PvPaisa. Yeah, so if you guys ever have anything that you want to put up, we have a lot of the top players that don't want to write a guide, but they can look at your guide and say, hey, yeah, that's really good information. Maybe they can add this in as well. And after you guys collaborate a little bit, put the guide up, and yeah, it would just be awesome if we had more people helping out. So kind of what we have now, we have a few people helping write news. I've been writing guides. Stefan wrote some guides. A few people from Primal have written some guides. I kind of want to have videos, like some video guides, because it seems like visual learning is maybe more mainstream these days. Just like short, quick videos that people can watch. So we're gonna just try to do everything we can to reach out to you guys to help us out, and at the same time, we're gonna try to make some time to make some more guides from ourselves. Yeah. So that's kind of what PvPisa is in a nutshell. Other ideas that we have been thinking about. I kind of want to start adding like weekly streamer highlights. I know a lot of people in the Discord have been clipping streams here and there, and maybe like highlighting like every week, like put some like highlights out there, and it gives exposure to the streamer, and it can like make you laugh if it's a meme, or you could see a cool outplay type video or something. And then finally, the last thing I really want to start getting up, especially from other data centers aside from Aether, are interviews, because I'm personally interested in the metas from like the Japan data centers and the European data centers. I know that a lot of the Chaos people have been playing on Aether, so we've kind of been seeing a slight merger of metas. But yeah, I'd just be interested, and then I'm sure that you guys as the community would also be interested in hearing from some of the top players, like maybe some minor tips here and there, just to see what some of the top players sneak in to make themselves, the number one on their data center. So yeah, that's PvPice in a nutshell. That's kind of where we want to go with it. That's kind of what we need to help go to get there. So Stefan, you have any?
Yeah, that sounds awesome, actually. And one of the specifics that was brought up, circling back a little bit to the video guides, I think one of the things that would benefit the community greatly is specifically very short video segments where people could take a quick video of themselves performing the burst combo for a specific job, and then maybe going back, putting that in slow motion, maybe going through that ability order. Because one of the biggest struggles that people have going into PvP is that they just do their PvE rotations, and while that's somewhat effective, it's not nearly as effective as being able to do your PvP burst rotation. So I mean, in my opinion, like my personal opinion, that is something that I would love to see somebody be able to produce and put up there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like that come in from PvE in FF, they don't understand like in PvP, it's all about your burst. How much damage can you front load to overwhelm a healer? So like you have people coming in trying to triple foul cleave like as a warrior, like that's that's not going to do anything. But if you can use every off global cooldown at once and just like burst somebody down before the healer can even get enough healing out, that's kind of what people don't understand, I think. And just things like that, like it's a different mind switch. You can't be spamming your off global cooldown stuns randomly. Like you don't use that for damage, you need to use that for crowd control. And it's just minor things like that that can help the overall community in PvP secure the kills, help their healer out with so it's just we just really need people to kind of like maybe visually see it, because reading about it, people might be too lazy. Like we're kind of in the Twitter generation where if it's not 144 characters, we're probably just gonna breeze brush it aside. And so maybe the videos will be more beneficial for the overall people. So we'll see. We're just gonna try a bunch of things, and hopefully the quality of front lines and feast are gonna be much improved for like season 4 and beyond.
And I think you guys both touched on a very important thing, and that is that a lot of people, when they go into PvP for the first time, they are relatively shocked at how different it plays from the rest of the game. like I said in my intro, the game is very static in what you do, and PvP is completely dynamic. Every match is different. The way you play in PvP is different, and a lot of people are kind of overwhelmed when they first enter at how fast paced it is, uh, how pretty much everything you learn in PvE, yes, it can be helpful, but you need to approach it with a different mindset. And a lot of things in PvE that you do won't cut it in PvP, and you have to essentially relearn how to play.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, if more people come forward and help us, get some guides up on the website, that will only make the quality of matches better. So let's segue this now. I want to talk about another really key piece of the community that has been around since, Fowls isn't here to comment on this, but feel free to correct me, anybody, if I'm wrong. I think it's been around since season 1, and that is the Team Tryhard PvP Discord. And even season 1, season 2, it really wasn't used that much, but now season 3, people are using this Discord a lot. And I wanted to bring Sir Zarek on here to talk about it because he's been one of the players that has really pushed using the Discord onto the community, at least here in Aether, getting into the voice chats, being able to communicate and stuff like that. So, sir, if you could talk a little bit about, your experience with the Discord, how you think that players coming into it can get the most out of it, and just some of your general opinions on Discord in general.
All right, I'm not a founder of the Discord, but the Tryhard Discord I think is probably one of the most useful tools we have as a PvP community. Um, when I first joined the Tryhard Discord, it was in the middle of season 2, which if anyone played during season 2 knows there were a lot of problems with the matchmaking and how fair and balanced the games would be. And so the Tryhard Discord was sort of a area where a lot of dedicated PvPers, a lot of people who wanted to take the game mode seriously, could meet up and discuss a variety of topics of really how to improve play, how to make sure everyone is playing correctly, how to organize matches that are fair, and overall just I guess keep the community alive during a very turbulent time that was season 2. And so the Tryhard Discord I think is great because it has servers for every single data center. It's not just an Aether exclusive thing. There are, European channels, there are Primal channels, there are Aether channels, there's even Japanese channels that I'm not really sure many Japanese people use, but they're there if you want to. And so with the oncoming changes of 3.5, which if people don't know is a disabling of the chat in Feast, I kind of took it upon myself to really try and push people to use the voice chat channels in the Discord because communication in a 4v4 team-based game mode is extremely important, and there are an infinite number of things you can say or try and get people to coordinate in Feast that can't just be summarized down to 22 extra buttons you have to press. And so I believe that voice chat is really going to be the future of Feast, and that if you're not using it, you're going to be having a much harder time in solo queue, which I think is a massive oversight by Square Enix. And I guess I'm kind of getting on a soapbox right here, talking about something we're going to talk about later. But I'll just say that the Tryhard Discord is a great area to uh, get in touch with the community of your own data center as well as other ones, gain some insight into how to play classes, or maybe learn about some classes that you don't know about, or maybe even learn something about your own class, and to have, yeah, I guess to have communication with the PvP community, which is very small, but it's very tight knit also.
Okay, great. So yeah, I guess I want to add a few things in about my own opinions on the Discord too, just to sort of express to people maybe that aren't using it or that haven't been using it actively, how you can get the most out of it. So, as Sir mentioned, using voice chat, especially coming with the next patch, is going to be extremely, extremely important. One of the other things I think is understanding what exactly the Discord is. It's not, the how to put this. It's not like the end all be all. Like you go in, it's PvP discussion all the time. If you're expecting that, you might be a little disappointed. Basically, what it is, it's just PvPers coming together and having conversations about a lot of different things. So if you jump in your data center's specific channel. Really, it's just a community of the people that play PvP on that data center. There is, often PvP discussion, but a lot of what you're going to get is just general discussion and, as it's touched upon a little earlier, just, some meme Twitch clips from some of the streamers. If you want to ask a question, I advise everybody to go into the specific channel, which is called Meta. The Meta channel is very active. If you post a question there, it will be answered typically within minutes. Um, you know, People really do want to help others in the Discord, so I really advise that if you do have a question, please just ask. Nobody's gonna make fun of you. Nobody's gonna tell you that your question is stupid. And I really think that there is a lot to be learned just by being able to group up with other people and communicate that way. So, I think we've touched quite a bit on the Discord.
I have one more. I have one thing real quick to add.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Even if you're shy and say somebody posts the let's hop in voice chat, like even if you don't want to talk, just being in there and listening really does go a long way, because like there's people like Sir who will actually be like calling targets, calling his CC, and just having that person calling that for you can really turn the tide of battle. So like I mean, I think it's worth it just for that alone. And as far as like Stefan said, so it's a team building thing just by being in the chat, talking about memes, Pokemon, whatever's going on for the day. So yeah, just that minor thing is like even if you're shy, I think it's still beneficial if you hop in there.
Yeah, of course. So let's move on. Our final community topic that I want to talk about is upcoming community events. So, one of the things that Square Enix has done a pretty poor job on, in my opinion, and this isn't meant to slander them in any way, I'm just unhappy with the way that it's turned out, is their PvP community events. I don't even remember what they call it. What do they call it? Is it duty? It's not duty commenced, is it? I forget what they call their feast streams.
It's like adrenaline rush or something.
Yeah, adrenaline rush. Yeah. So the adrenaline rush events, they queue up, and God bless them, the community team isn't really PvPers, so their commentary is often lacking. They don't join up for, the populated feast modes or, really get together an organized event. It's sort of just on a whim. People just join up as it happens. And we want to take it upon ourselves to sort of take that idea and just bring it to the next level. So Quest is here to talk about, some of the incentives that people will have to come to the community events. There are going to be prizes for these community events. Um, so I guess before I let Quest take it away with the rewards and how the Free Company Rex is going to sponsor these events, I want to talk a little bit about what to expect. So some of the first ones that I want to do is a fun style tournament, right? So we queue up for custom games, which is going to be a 4 versus 4 match mode, and we can have different themes. One of the ones that I really want to try out is a 4 versus 4 tournament of only machinists. So people will make their teams. They will have 4 machinists. They're going to queue up against 4 machinists, and it'll just be like an old western shootout. And the winner
Can we
that comes
call
on
it high
top,
noon?
yeah, we'll call it high noon. And it's things like that. You really don't get to experience in the game because there's just not people to do it. So if you bring people together and be able to make these teams and make these events happen, I think it'll be really fun. However, all healer versus all healer and all paladin versus all paladin, that can go die in a fire. We don't have the time.
Literally, you don't have the time.
Yeah. And then to sort of bring it up a notch, we also want to do more. If you're familiar with World of Warcraft or really any other game, other games don't have role restrictions in their arena style PvP modes. So I think it would be fun to do unconventional composition PvP tournaments. So this would also be held in 4v4 customs. Basically, the only rule would be that you're not allowed to use a standard composition. To give you an example, the standard composition is one tank, one melee DPS, one range DPS, and one healer. So you could go in if you wanted. You could go 3 healers and 1 melee DPS. You could go, 3 summoners and a healer, 4 paladins, whatever you want to do, but it just can't be the conventional composition. And then, of course, to round it all out, we do want to have some serious competitive tournaments. These would use standard light party compositions. These ones would have, the greatest prizes out of, the 3 different styles of tournaments we want to host. And Quest, now we can segue into, if you want to talk about what RareX is offering, in sponsorship of these tournaments. What are the prizes people can expect?
I don't want to go into specific detail on like numbers of prizes because I feel like if the tournaments get more serious, then we can scale it up. Like I don't want to put a number and have people expect that every time. There will be significant gil involved if you're on Balmung. I can't really help you out if you're on another server. If we do cross server matches with the new party finder coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Monetary rewards, there won't be any monetary rewards, but cash up rewards, things like that are all feasible. Definitely things that people may not want to purchase themselves, but we can get item codes for, things like that. It all depends on the popularity of the tournaments and how many people we can get involved. But we definitely want to take a step in that direction and actually have people be incentivized with things that have feasible value or tangible value.
Mm-hmm. And just to sort of, clarify that, if we don't even know if we can do cross-server tournaments with the information given to us in the patch notes. It's I want to remain optimistic and say yes, we'll be able to finally do them with the cross-server party finder. But because of the way that custom matches work and how they're initiated, we're not sure if that will even be possible. At least in a way that makes sense. It might be possible if like the party leaders are both on the same server, but you get people from other servers. But that's not really a rounded out solution. It's not a complete solution to the issue. But like what Quest said, if you are off server, obviously we can't give you in-game rewards. We can't give you gil. We can't give you items. But I personally will help with sponsoring the cash shop rewards, whether it's Fantasias, if it's, outfits, mounts, or even game time. That's something that is definitely feasible and we will be looking at. And, as Quest said, as they get bigger, the rewards will get bigger too. So I think, guys, that rounds up the community segment. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts about the topics that we just discussed. No.
One thing that I wanted to bring up with the tournament thing is that don't look at it as a way that you're gonna play one match and get smashed. Like if your team is not that practiced and you're not that good or you're new to PvP and you're expected to go in and get smashed and then that's it. We don't want people to look at it that way. Any tournament that we decide to run will have a bracket style with a losers bracket, and the more teams that we get, the more chances that you play a team of your own skill level, rather than getting pulled against the number one team in the tournament. So we want to try to get it to be more popular so that teams of all skill levels show up, because that way you have more chances to play against more teams, and we can do double elimination, things like that, where it's not always the same teams playing the same teams over and over again.
Yeah, and actually, Miyu did just post in Twitch chat. There was a blog post about a couple weeks ago that specifically states that you will not be able to register for custom matches using the cross world party finder feature. So, unfortunately, these will just be for Balmo.
Looks like everyone has to transfer to Balmont.
I mean, yes and no. It still is a tournament. If people do want to get involved, we can still make it happen cross server, but people have to be willing to play in the actual queue.
Yeah, we can always, create characters on other servers. I think if that's the case, we would need help. We would need help with someone being on that server, sort of, as our representative and organizing the events, making sure we have enough teams on a server. I have no problem getting characters onto a server that can spectate the match so that we can, appropriately shoutcast the tournaments and then provide prizes for you as well. Okay, so I think that closes it out. Thanks again, Mio, for clarifying that point for us. So let's talk about something that a lot of people have been talking about, especially since the preliminary patch notes came out yesterday. We have quite a few big PvP changes coming up on Tuesday that are really going to throw a wrench in things. One of them I think will be really good. One of them I think will be really bad. So if you guys want to hold on a second, I'm just going to run through all the changes real quick. And then we can backtrack to the start of the list and sort of go down and everybody give their opinions on how they think that these changes will affect gameplay. So the first one's pretty big. The removal of Grand Company restrictions is finally happening with the freelancer system. So we'll get a little bit into what that is, right? The freelancer system will basically give you an option on your duty finder list. It's going to be in the same submenu as the undersized party and minimum item level queue, and you can queue up as a freelancer, and that'll throw you right in. And by throw you right in, I guess it's not very clear. It will throw you into the queue without the restriction of your Grand Company. So even if you're, under the Maelstrom Grand Company, it could queue up as Adders, Flames, or Maelstrom. Any of the three doesn't matter. The system, when it comes to the achievements, there's achievements for winning with your specific Grand Companies. It was clarified that whatever your active Grand Company is on your character, that is what your achievements will go towards. So if you queue up and you are a Maelstrom, but it puts you on the Immortal Flames team, when you win that match, it will go towards your tally for your Maelstrom victories. We can talk about our opinions on that in a bit. Those are just the facts. So moving on, the second biggest thing is the chat restriction being added to the feast. So basically, you will not be able to speak in party chat. A lot of it was discussed. I don't know. I don't think they really, added specifics on when you'll be able to talk in the feast. They've mentioned in interviews that you'll have like time before and after during those sort of preparation times to be able to talk. But the patch notes don't mention anything like that. So in place of actually speaking with your team and being able to use your own player-made macros, Square Enix has put up a list of macros that you can use. I'm going to change the scene on Twitch really quick so you guys can see these patch notes with me. So if we see here, we have hello, good match, thank you, nice job, some purify macros, adrenaline
You're
rush
gonna need
macros.
to wait a second before it shows up. There you go. Now
Well,
it's
the stream will be up to date. You guys will be a little.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Collecting offensive supplies, collecting defensive supplies, basically just your objectives, who you're attacking for the 4 roles, stopping. By stopping, I can only assume that they mean these are supposed to be crowd control macros. Collecting medals, saying that you are going to be the next one that picks up medals. Get the medals. Everyone attack, which I'm guessing they mean is like a push forward tactic, and then fall back, which is going to be like get the fuck out of here tactic. So those are the macros. I definitely want to talk about the macros specifically, sort of go down the list and talk about how each one will likely be used in practice, but we can get to that in a little bit. So the rest of the changes, the Garo event is coming out with 3.5. basically what it is, it's the next iteration of PvP rewards using wolf marks. It's going to be item level 235 gear. It looks really cool. There's also going to be 3 different mounts added. We don't know how they're going to be obtained. We only just know that they're being obtained through some form of achievements. So, we can speculate a little bit about how we think that those will be obtained. And then if we get around to it, there's nothing in the patch notes or on the live site for the feast rankings about the end of season rewards. The end of the season was said to be in patch 3.55, which Square Enix has said is going to be in February after the European Fan Fest. Since that's the case, we're about a month away from the end of season 3 of the feast, and we don't even know exactly what the rewards are yet, if there's going to be any more revisions to the top 10 rewards that have sparked a big controversy. So at the end of all this, I would like to discuss that a little bit before we close out the show. So let's circle back to the top of the list here, right? So guys, I want to talk about the Grand Company restrictions being removed. If we want to go in order here, we can do. I don't know who wants to start us off. Who's feeling passionate about Frontlines right now?
I'm pretty excited about it. Mainly because it seems like all the people who used to play Flames kind of spread out now. So as a diehard Flames person, I can queue with them again. So that's gonna be really nice next week. And at the same time, it's like it's gonna just inspire everybody to play more because there's not gonna be 2-hour queues. So I think like in general, this change is long overdue.
Yeah, just sort of echoing what Marshall said there. I think the main reason for this change was to promote more active queues. With the system we have now, where it was strictly based on Grand Company involvement, you would get situations where one Grand Company would have much faster queues than other ones simply because of the people queuing based in it. Or you would have enormous queue times because your Grand Company was more popular and you would have to wait before you could get a pop because so many more people were queuing in it. And with this change, it basically throws the Grand Companies out of the window. Yes, they still matter for your achievements. However, the whole lore reason behind it, which frankly I don't think many people even cared about, is sort of just being tossed to the side in favor of actually being able to play the game, which I think is the most important part of this change.
See, it's funny. I know a specific player that would turn over if he heard you say that. When back in Shadow, when all of us switched to Maelstrom for faster queues, he was stubborn and would not switch off the Flames. He had pride.
You have to have Flame Pride, but at the same time, it did fix the queues. You know what I mean? Like by a big chunk of people swapping over to a GC, the community basically fixed what SE was too stubborn to do until now. I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the PvP community might grow a little bit more because of this as well. Just because when you talk with some of the more casual people, they do complain about like, hey, how come my queues don't pop? How come my queues don't pop? It's been an hour. So I think this might inspire a few more people to stick with us and PvP a bit.
Yeah, and I guess one of the big concerns that the PvP community has been expressing, specifically on the official forums and on Reddit, they're afraid that this is opening up the floodgates to pre-mades being formed and getting into the queues. Do you guys have any opinions on if you agree with this? If you think that pre-mades are going to ruin the Frontlines experience now that it's easier for them to form up?
Well, pre-mates have always existed in Frontlines. If you've played any sort of Seal, Rock, or Shatter, you've most likely run into a pre-made that just completely stomps everybody. The only way to stop pre-mades is to restrict people from actually queuing with their friends, which I don't really think should be a thing in an MMO. And actually, I think the removal of Grand Company restrictions might actually make the pre-made problem, well, I wouldn't call it a problem, but I think it might make the pre-made imbalance actually less impactful because you are now not restricted to like only being on Maelstrom. You might, a pre-made can be on any side now. You're not gonna have people in a specific grand company altogether. So I think actually this might make matches better. Pre-mades will still always exist. They will always have an advantage, but that should just hopefully incentivize people to roll with their friends and go pre-made v pre-made.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sort of echo that a little bit. I think that there will be more pre-mades forming up because it will be easier to do. However, because of the system, like you said, like you might have, for example, in Balmung, there's tons of players that are going to be forming up pre-mades and going into front lines. But you can't go in as an alliance. So say you have 3 groups queuing up, there might be one of them on Flames and 2 of them on Maelstrom, or they might be split up evenly between the 3 free companies or grand companies.
It's
So
no longer just a one GC thing.
yeah, so I mean, if more premates queue up, I think it will make for more exciting and more competitive frontlines games. And as Sir kind of touched upon there, it's one of those things. If you don't like that you're going up against premates all the time and you're a solo player, uh, this is the time to reach out and try to get more people interested in queuing up for frontlines with you. With the cross server party finder and stuff like that, it's going to be easier than ever to get a team together. And I mean, if you join the Team Tryhard Discord, that's even a platform for you to get those people together, hop into Discord, and get into a voice chat that's available for you to sort of create your own pre-made and organize your own games. So I think, does anybody have any final thoughts on the restrictions being removed or the freelancer system?
I just think overall it's a great addition and is long overdue.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I do have one closing thought about it. My only gripe with it is that you have to go into a sub menu of the duty finder and activate it. I doubt that there's going to be anything in game that pops up and says, "Hey guys, this is a new feature. If you want faster queues, use this." So it does kind of suck because for the people that don't read patch notes, I know the majority of players probably don't. Um, and for those that don't watch, uh, you know, the news podcasts or look at the news articles and stuff to say, "Oh, this is the new system." Uh, it's not going to fix the issue for those people, but I think hopefully enough people are going to know about it and enough people are going to do it that it'll fix the issue. I'm remaining optimistic about that. But let's move now into a more controversial topic. And I'm going to switch the scene up again over to the patch notes because I do want to go over each of these macros. So before we go down and talk about each of the macros in turn, how do you guys feel about the chat restrictions in the feast?
Terrible.
100% negative. There's nothing good about it. Except for maybe Steph's not going to ban again.
Yeah. Yeah, like it prevents people from getting banned just because of how they police their game. Like you get banned for calling somebody a minor bad name, but you can bot, but you can do this and that and not get caught, So I just think it's really weird if they add this
It's
in.
mainly because they're ultra high tech security police really only go based off chat logs. So.
Like when they first added the feast into the game, I'm pretty sure they pinned a topic in the PvP forums talking about how they're going to police fair play and stuff like that. And we're 3 seasons in. There's still people win trading. There's still people abusing the system, and there's people getting banned for calling someone an idiot. Like, okay, you can't call somebody an idiot, but you can cheat the game. Like, come on, like it was just like, why even make that post if you're not going to use the resources to police the format.
Yeah, and I think it's really funny and sad at the same time in a funny way. Like the happy crying. When you look at other games that have competitive PvP formats and see how they deal with issues of toxicity, or just the general I guess discourse that happens between players because of a solo queue team-based competitive system. you have League of Legends where they put you in a low priority queue with other people that are toxic, and you have to play 10 games with people that are also toxic before it puts you back into the regular queue. Or they have, they mute your chat so you can't talk in chat at all. And I think temporary systems like this make it so that players realize, okay, I need to stop being such a dickhead, or else my games are bad. I can't even communicate with my team anymore, let alone be toxic to them. But like, I need to communicate with them. So they're like, okay, well, now when I go back in after this 10 game, suspension more or less, I'm going to try to be a better person. I know that that's not always how it works out, but that's the idea, right? And I think that's a good idea.
The thing for me though with that is that it's hard to compare Final Fantasy to any other game because of the uniqueness of like how small the community is. It's like you can't really say like, just put them with other toxic people, because if they were in a toxic only queue, there would be like 5 people in it all week long, and no one would ever pop.
Well,
You know
say
what I
something
mean?
like this then. Put it like, doesn't I'm not too up to date on League of Legends, but Quest, I know you are. Isn't there some sort of a penalty system where like you have to wait 5 minutes before it even puts you in the queue?
Yeah, that's if you leave a match, you get locked out of queue for up to half an hour. But
Yeah.
the harder part is with this is that even if you were to mute someone and leave them in the same queue, you're now affecting their teammates, and these are the teammates that you see in almost every game, because there's only a certain amount of people playing at any one time, right? So it's a really like tricky situation to deal with, and it's kind of like hard to really brainstorm a proper idea that'll actually work for this game specifically.
I think they developed it though. Like this system right now, these macros, these should be the punishment for the toxic people. Like Square Enix will keep making $15 a month from the player, and like you still have people playing Feast now. I don't know. To me, it just seems like, why punish everybody when you can just, they developed it already. You know what I mean? Like, we can't do nothing about this now. So use this developed content to punish the bad players, and the people who aren't toxic can still type and communicate and play the game, play a team game. I don't know. It's just really weird.
I think we should actually double back really quick and just explain this situation as to why we're getting this in the first place. Because I think we all we were like racehorses right now. We just got off to the race as soon as we started talking about this, because we're all so heated about it. But if we can like go back and actually discuss why we're getting this, I think that'll give some insight to a lot of people watching who may not be familiar with Feast as to what's going on.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're approaching the end of the 3rd season of Feast. The Feast is separated into seasons. You get rewards for each season. There's a ranked ladder. It's a competitive game mode in this game that not a lot of people play, and that they should. And throughout these seasons, it's been noticed that there's been some toxicity in games between players, because it's a competitive game, and I have not ever played a competitive PvP game where people don't get heated and say things that they probably shouldn't to each other. And I think this all really came to a problem where Square Enix started developing the system in season 2, where they fiddled with the matchmaking to the point where games were completely unfair, and you would get brand new players on your team while you were an established ranked player, and the system really never gave you a fair shot for at least 40% of your games.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing quite like queuing up for your platinum promos when your healer pops in and they get the "Look Who's Coming for Dinner" 1 achievement.
Exactly. So
that's not even to say like someone who plays a lot, like an experienced PvP, or a match with someone new. That's legitimately the rank 1 player could get matched with someone that had never played before.
Exactly. So for an entire season, the Feast community had to put up with a broken matchmaking system that would, honest to goodness, not give you a fair chance to win a game. And this happened very, very, very frequently. I can recall probably on just 5 fingers matches in season 2 where every single person in the game was within 1 tier of each other, where it was a true, honest to God, fair match. And so you had an entire season, which is around 3 months of matches where you never had a shot to win. You never had a shot to have a fair match. And that takes its toll on a community. That takes a toll on people who want to play this game competitive, who have to time and time again go into a match where someone on their team is completely new and completely ignorant to how PvP works. And that takes people to their boiling point very, very quickly, and let alone over 3 months. So I think Square Enix looked at the frustration of a lot of people in season 2, and then looked at the treatment of brand new players at season 2 and said there's a problem here, when really I think it was the main issue was the matchmaking not working correctly, rather than an overly toxic community, which is still a problem. But I think it was I think the season 2 system contributed grossly to the development of this system right now.
Yeah, just like development time didn't sync up with, you know, the current trend. Like right now, it seems like people are a little bit better. I haven't seen that much toxicity this season.
Yeah, so season 3 actually fixed that matchmaking issue. There's still some wonky matchmaking in season 3, but you know, unlike season 2, you are not queuing into a game now where you get a brand new healer who has never even touched PvP before while you are diamond ranked player. You're not getting these crazy, disparities of skills on the same team. It's a lot better now. The matches are a lot more fair, and I think that because of that, the toxicity has gone down. It still exists though, because this is a competitive game mode. People get heated. People want to win, and I think they should encourage people to play better and to want to win, rather than silencing people and not allowing them to communicate at all.
Yeah, and I think a comment that Yoshi P had made, I forget where he made it. I believe it was in one of the interviews that have come up in the past few weeks. But his comment was something like, he just wished that PvP players would be nice to each other. And I think this comment really brings to light how, I get not uninformed, I just disconnected from the game and from the nature of PvP in general the dev team is. When you create a team game, like a team-based game mode like this, and have a solo queue, there is going to be toxicity, because you cannot solo queue. You have to rely on your teammates to have some level of competency to help you win the game. So, I mean, even now, even with this system, I think season 3 is probably the best system we've had yet, but there's still huge disparities in skill. So you're going to have toxicity no matter what. I think what it comes down to, and what Square Enix needs to take on the responsibility to do, is to police it appropriately. Like, I don't think that players receiving not even the permanent bans. I mean, the permanent bans are ludicrous, but even receiving a 9-day suspension for telling somebody that they're an idiot or calling them retarded, like, that's just so, it's childish to do that in the first place, I guess, but it's also childish to police it that harshly. Like, I think that at that point, you're not treating people as people. Like, you're going way too by the book. Like, the terms that they're trying to go by are just way too strict for a game mode like this.
Mm-hmm. And I think that this system that they've developed, this quick chat system, is honestly, it's going to punish the new players in PvP more than the established players, because now there's no real way to coordinate so many things that you're able to do right now with this quick chat system.
Yeah, like, take this scenario, right? Sir, you're absolutely correct. Say you're a new player, you want to queue up for your feast match. I highly, highly doubt that there's going to be anything in the game that tells you before you go in, hey, you're not going to be able to talk. You're probably going to get a message in your chat box when you join in that says chat is restricted in the feast. You're going to try to type something your team, nothing is going to come out, and you'll be like, what the fuck? Nothing is going to tell you even that you have a submenu with all of these macros in it. And then even when you open it up, a new player is going to be bombarded with, I think, what is this? I haven't counted. I think it's like over 20 macros.
It's 22 macros.
Yeah, so then a new player's like, okay, I don't even know how my regular abilities work to do damage, to heal, to defend. How the hell am I gonna fit all these macros on my bar?
And that's, I think, another major issue that comes with this new quick chat system is that we have enough buttons to press already. I struggle with hotbar bloat as is. I cannot imagine anybody that is able to fit 22 extra buttons onto their user interface to communicate and feast now. It is it's really mind-boggling, I think, how they thought, especially for controller players, trying to think that people could fit 22 extra buttons under their hotbars to communicate with people instead of just allowing them to say attack this person in chat.
Yeah, and I mean I think before I want to soon switch over to talking about each of the macros specifically and close out this part by saying what macros are missing that are absolutely vital to gameplay. But before that, I kind of want to express my concern because why is it just the feast that has proven to be so toxic that they get chat restricted? Because personally, I have faced just as much toxicity doing an expert roulette or even a leveling roulette. You know how many times I have run the vault and have had the group ream out the healer that wasn't able to heal the last boss? I think the number is probably closer to the feast toxicity than some people might think.
I
I,
agree.
I think the biggest thing there though is that when you queue for expert or you queue for leveling or whatever, you hit someone you'll never see again. Most likely you don't even know, and you'll never see them again. But in PvP, it's like you enter a game and you see random healer number 3. You're like, fuck me, this guy fucking blows. I lose every game with this motherfucker. Like every single time this guy's on my team, we fucking lose. Like that drives toxicity far more than you being mad for 5 minutes because some guy sucked in a dungeon.
And I think that's a really good point, Quest, but I think this system will actually escalate that because here's the thing. If something bad happens, you could previously get it out in the match. End of the match, maybe you throw something in the chat that just says, man, you suck, or something like that. Like, yes, it's childish, it's whatever, but you got to get the salt off somehow. People get stressed, they get worked up, and you need to relieve it. And to expect people to just sit there and meditate on it for a few minutes and let it go away, we're not Buddhist monks. So I think it's like with this new system, people won't be able to vent their frustrations mid-match. There might be some ways we're going to go over in a bit here with some of these macros. But then you have situations, and I've experienced this in the past with other games too, where people will make characters on other servers. They'll whisper you after the game. They'll tell you they will find a way to tell people that they are shit. Like it's not going to stop. People are just going to find new ways to do it. And I think that's something that Square Enix really underestimates.
I've
That
actually had somebody do that to me on Balmung this season, and they had D&D on, so I couldn't even reply to them. So it's definitely not gonna resolve all issues.
Yeah, it toxicity will always exist in a competitive PvP environment, no matter the game. Um, and I think this implementing this system is going to hurt new players more than established players because now you are not able to communicate with them some very important things that they will, because of this system, remain ignorant to and left out in the dark. And it's, I don't know, man. It's just, like I said, it's mind-boggling why this exists.
it's even simple things, just like pre-planning anything. I mean, even if they really wanted to go through with this, I feel like they shouldn't have gone all in. Like even if they allowed like chat pregame, I think that would have been better than this. It still would have been terrible, but at least you would have given some semblance of like, hey, let's focus this person, or do you want the buffs, or do you want me to have them, or this guy tends to do this. Can you guys make sure you help me out, or something like that? If you're the healer, like some sort of semblance of planning just makes things so much better. But this just completely takes that all away.
Yeah, so I guess to round out this part of the discussion on this, uh, do you guys think that this will fix the issue?
No.
Nope, absolutely not. Because when we go over these macros, I'm going to tell you exactly how I would use them to fucking spam at someone.
So
They're gonna be used for trolling probably,
yeah,
or they're just gonna make people not want to queue up because they're new. Like they already have to add PvP abilities into their bars. Like now they have to add 50 macros. Like come on, that's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to new people.
yeah, and I guess as a,
Overwhelming really to anybody.
yeah, actually I agree with that. But as a closing comment, if you're in the chat right now, if you're watching, uh, if you disagree with us, if you think that this will be a good thing for the feast, please tell me why. Please tell us why. We are open to discuss it, but so far I have not seen anything that can provide a good reason. People say that will bring down toxicity. That's the reason I see the most. But overall, it's not going to. I disagree with that. So if you have a reason why you disagree with us and you think that this change is needed and that it will be good for the game mode, then please let us know. We can comment on it at the end of the section. So let's hop right into it. Do you guys have the patch notes up? Do you see the list of macros?
I'm watching the stream. So.
Okay, so you guys can see it. So let's just go down the list here. I'm just gonna point out what the macro is. Some of them we can just gloss over, but ultimately I'm gonna spend some time and talk about how each one's gonna be used. So first one is hello. I would just like to say I think this is the most useless macro on the entire list.
Yep.
I think it's lumped into a couple others as far as like expressing your anger at someone's inability to perform an action.
It could also be a cultural thing though. Like maybe the Japanese players will use it, or like some of the friendly NA people. I don't know. I think it's like probably in there just for that reason, but it's useless.
Buttons I'll never put on my hotbar for one.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about good match. How do you guys think good match will be used?
It will be used purely as a sarcastic insult.
100%, 100%.
I actually agree.
Strigus brings up a good point. I think hello will be an attention getter. Hello, I need MP. Hello.
Yeah, pair it with some of the other macros.
Yeah.
What about thank you?
Purely sarcastic insult.
Another waste. Like that shouldn't even be there. Like that's worse than hello in my opinion.
I think thank you will be used to, I guess, be passive aggressive towards a healer for letting you die. You'll die and then you'll just spam thank you towards the healer. Same with the next one.
That's a nice job.
The
I
next one's my
personally can see
favorite,
this. Like,
dude.
every
That's
time
my
your melee
favorite.
botches an LB,
Yeah.
every time a specific tank dies in Deliverance with 4 stacks, this is the one you use, man. Nice job.
I just can't wait till someone gets suspended for using these macros.
Yeah, thank you. Nice job. Those two should just be removed. Like they don't feel any like any void in this PvP thing. I don't know. Thank you. Nice job. Like it's the same thing, and why use them? Like you can say good match after the game, hello at the beginning, maybe.
And then,
Like I said, they're just troll things.
yeah, absolutely. Like they're going to be used sarcastically. So let's talk about now we get into the functional ones, right? And I have some pretty heavy opinions about this next set. So this is going to be 2 macros, by the way. It's Purify Ready and Purify Not Ready. I'd like to just start with this one. I think that this one is absolutely terrible. Purify Ready and Purify Not Ready does not help at all. If somebody has their Purify Ready, what am I supposed to do? Like, if they say, oh, my Purify is ready, then when I get stunned, am I just supposed to rely on them to Purify me? I'm not really sure. If they say Purify Not Ready, then am I supposed to be like, oh, well, now I can use my Purify? So are they expected to give me, like, throughout the match, they're going to hit that 7 times or 6 times or whatever, letting me know whenever it's up or down?
Could this be something from like the JP data center where they play Black Mage a lot? So maybe they let their healer know. I don't know. Like that's all I can really think about. Playing devil's advocate
I
with
would
it.
think that if I was a healer and I needed a way to say I need to be purified, I would use Purify Not Ready. I would just spam that if I need to be purified. That's probably the only situation I would
But see,
ever use
again,
that.
that's something that the community will have to develop. That is going to be a meta macro, I guess, for lack of a better term, that people
Yeah.
are going to have to
It's other
understand.
things like like if you ever play a first-person shooter, every map has community-made nicknames for different spots on the map, and you don't learn that till you play a little while. So things like this are just things like that where you play and you learn it, and then it just comes over time.
I think the biggest problem with this macro was what's missing to accompany it, and that is a macro that says I need purify, because
Right.
you can tell people your purify is ready or your purify is not ready, but not being able to say I need you to purify me is what makes this so bad in a sense. Because
Could this be a translation issue then? Maybe.
I wonder. I really
don't
wonder.
think so, just because there's 2 macros.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is intentional, and I think the chat has a good point. Like, it's not that bad. I think in higher tier games, it's not going to be that bad. I think for a new player getting into it, okay, they're saying Purify is not ready. Okay, well, okay, cool.
Yeah. They
They
just
don't
will ignore
understand.
it.
Oh, but if there was a macro that said I need you to purify me, there might be even if it's just a small chance, there would be a higher chance that they would be able to say, okay, I need to purify this person.
Yeah. They could. They definitely should reword the not ready thing to purify me, just to make it more clear to new people.
It's
Yeah.
like I appreciate knowing when someone's purifier is up, but not being able to say I need you to use it is what makes this bad.
It's a whole lot different than saying my attunement's up, you know, like
Yeah.
because then at least you can coordinate like a cover and an attunement or something.
Yeah, and I think these issues carry over into even the next set of macros, which is the Adrenaline Rush Ready and Adrenaline Rush Not Ready macros. I think it has the same issue. I think having macros that say I don't have LB and I do have LB are good. I don't think this is as bad as the healing one. I just think that the text itself is, less than good or less than great.
I think whoever does translations for this game, they kind of have this issue a lot in some of the aspects of like the UI. And I think like this might be part of it because they don't PvP as much. So maybe the Adrenaline Rush Ready and Adrenaline Rush Not Ready, if maybe we send them a message or something, they could tweak it so it actually is worded properly in English. Because maybe the Japanese translation is better. I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to see, instead, this is just my opinion, feel free to disagree with me, guys, but I would like it to see, if you have somebody targeted, or maybe, it's difficult because you would have to pair these macros, right? So, for example, you'd have to say Adrenaline Rush Ready, attacking healer, right? If you wanted to LB the healer. Whereas I would have
Yeah.
liked to see instead something like maybe. Well, first of all, let me back up. I don't think that it should say Adrenaline Rush Ready. I think it should say I'm going to use my Adrenaline Rush. Or something
Correct.
like that. Because saying that it's ready, like you could just be preparing for it. I mean, I think again, this is the same thing with Purify. I think at upper levels, people will understand what it means. But I think the wording is just really poor.
Yeah, I think it's going to be used in that manner. Like right now, we have some melee that actually give you a heads up and say like L being this target in X seconds, and that can be used. This Adrenaline Rush Ready macro will probably be used in that manner. It's just worded really poor.
Yeah. And again, I think the problem that this macro specifically is going to have is that it doesn't allow you to choose a target. You'll have to use additional macros to be able to convey one message. Which, I mean, what it comes down to is it's extra clicks on a controller, it's extra button presses. It's just not as easy as, a player-made macro that just says like it says everything in one macro.
Yeah, and it needs to be brevity too. Like you see some people that make their macros saying like some RP, and then I'm gonna LB somebody, and then the target name. So like I don't know. These macros could be like adrenaline rushing healer or the target or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it should be that instead of adrenaline rush ready. I don't know. Like they can like really make these efficient. Like, are we gonna be able to use this in our own macro where we can combine them, or are we gonna have to hit 2 buttons? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. They haven't
We don't know.
specified.
So if we have to hit 2 buttons, like that's just like way too much overhead in my adrenaline rush ready on attack healer or attacking healer. Adrenaline rush ready, attacking ranged. I don't know. That's just like something we got to see on Tuesday, I guess.
Hopefully there will be like chat chains you can do, like the current like auto translations, but who knows?
I agree. That would help. Because I mean, like, what you could do for most of these macros, because like as a healer, I'm not going to need to say adrenaline rushing target or whatever, or I'm not going to need to say this and that. Like, so I can like narrow it down and cut down the list as my job. So like maybe it's not going to be as overburdening as we're making it out to be, but at the same time, it's like a lot of this stuff could be combined, especially if we can like just use our own macros with auto translation using these phrases.
All right, so let's move on to the supply kits then, the objectives. Do you guys see anything wrong with the collecting offensive supplies macro?
Just more wording issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this one and the adrenaline one will be the most useful because offensive supplies spawn in the middle of feast matches, so you can use this macro to alert your team to prepare to get them or to go get them. Collecting defensive supplies, I really see no use for at all, because this is you get defensive supplies at the start of a match and you never get them again. They never respawn. Maybe for 8v8 feast, but communication is really not as important in that game mode. So collecting defensive supplies, I see no use for, and then collecting adrenaline supplies, like I said, it can be useful for alerting your team to go get the adrenaline crate.
I think the only thing that I would use collecting defensive supplies for is if I'm playing melee and I want to get double buffs, I would just spam both. Like I'm getting both.
You're right.
Before the match, but that's the only time I'd ever use it.
Until we see the new map too, like maybe they're gonna start spawning defense kits in the middle of the map. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the new Lavender Beds map.
Which really, on that discussion, that's how it was. I think it was preseason. I think they changed it for season 1, where they added double offense. I actually liked it when you had defensive kits that spawned later, because then it allowed the team that got ahead to, put those on their people with metal stacks.
True. Yeah.
All right, but yeah, that's basically. I think the general consensus is that these are not that bad.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the attacking ones. Do you guys see an issue with attacking healer, attacking melee, attacking tank, attacking range DPS?
I say
think that
yes and no.
They're pretty straightforward, to be honest.
I think that they could have just combined these into one macro attacking target.
Yeah. For people who are unaware, the meta in Feast is to just mark one target with like a 1 or an X or whatever, and that's the guy that you want your team to attack. Having 4 separate buttons to attack tell your team to attack the different types of classes is kind of irrelevant because what people have developed as the most effective way, at least in solo queue, is to just mark one person you want dead, mark the person you want dead. And so it would have been better, like Marshall just said right now, to just have a attack the target macro rather than attack each class macro. However, I do think that these can be useful for pointing out people who may overstack. If someone accidentally picks up more medals than they should, you can use this. Or if you really need to be in the heat of the moment, tell someone, you can just spam whatever you need to do. I can see them being useful, but I can also see them just being kind of like a why does this exist when this other method is more effective type thing.
Okay. Yeah, and I can agree with that. I think just attacking target macro that maybe says like the player's name or something would be more effective.
And even have it auto mark too. Like it should do. Like it could just be a super efficient button.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next one, and I have some pretty high opinions about this set in particular, but I want to hear your guys' opinions first. The stopping macros. So stopping tank, stopping healer, stopping melee, stopping range DPS.
I mean, honestly, obviously there's CC macros, like you're pointing out which person you're going to be CCing or locking down or whatever. The only way I would see myself using them is we're getting a kill and going for a follow-up kill, and your person with CC tries to snag one person and they mark that person with a macro. That's really the only time I would see it useful. because pointing out who you're CCing, no one else really gives a shit.
I think the stopping healer macro will get the most use out of this, because CCing a healer during a focus is probably the most relevant thing out of these macros that you can, call out. But in situations where you're going to be, CCing people, it's usually in situations where you're trying to get a follow-up kill, where one team is just trying to run away and the other team is just trying to get a kill on whoever. And so I think these macros would be kind of like, I don't really think I'll ever use them, except maybe the stopping healer one, because the situation and where you're going to be using a lot of these macros is, it's self-explanatory for a lot of people.
Yeah, the stopping stuff, like it's so Twitch, like it's just something that you have to, you know what I mean? Like if you're a machinist and you are silencing a healer real quick, you just do it. You don't need to tell anybody
Exactly.
you're doing it. So I don't know. It's these are maybe just like poorly translated again, like the stopping part. It just might mean like I'm CCing target, and again they could have combined this into one button, stopping target, and mark it with like the don't attack thing or some type of symbol like notifying them that they're gonna be stopped. I don't know.
I can see this being used for black mages for sleeping
Yeah.
targets. I think that would be the most efficient way of using these, and it's just for one class.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Marshall said, a lot of the time when you're going to be CCing someone, it's so spur of the moment. You're not going to have time to fumble through 20 macros to say, hey, I'm CCing this guy, because by the time you do that, the CC's already over.
Yep. And I think my personal gripe with these macros is the wording again. I think to a player that's maybe not as informed or not as aware of what these mean, saying I'm stopping X, Well, what does stop mean? It could mean stop him from doing damage by killing him, It could be stop him from healing by, killing him. Like, I think using something like I am controlling X, controlling or something. But the thing is, with different CCs, the bigger issue with this, different CCs require different action. So if somebody is stunning a character, for example, you can still attack them, and it doesn't break the CC. But if you're binding, if you're sleeping, then any attacks will remove that crowd control. So I think by not having something that specifies, don't attack, I think that's a detriment to this macro.
Yeah,
Because at
it
least,
could just be really poorly translated. Honestly, like we honestly don't know what their intent was with this. It just feels weird. Like you say, like could you kill them? Could you stun them? Could you sleep them? What is it?
mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on. I want to get to the next one. I don't see much of a problem with them, except for, again, specifications. The collecting medals and get the medals. I think, personally, that collecting medals will be used by people that, if you need to get medals next and you know it, you're going to say that. So, if your tank has 4 stacks and you've only got 50 medals, you're going to pick up the next ones.
Yeah, it would be nice if it said collecting next medals. Like it's like a preemptive macro.
Yeah.
This macro also it fails another why isn't this in here test, where we have no option of telling a certain person to get medals, because a huge portion of Feast is medal management, making sure you're spreading out medals so no one person gets too many vulnerability stacks where they will just be a free kill. And in a lot of situations, when you get a kill, you need a certain person to pick up the medals to make sure that you're not overstacking like that and not letting them return. And where you don't really have an option of telling a certain person to get medals rather than just saying get the medals.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's one of those specification issues where, the macro just doesn't say enough, where you could just stop mid-match, type out a really quick thing like tank, get medals, and you can't do that anymore. And the macros aren't covering for that situation. So let's move on. Again, I think this is probably in it's contesting for the least useful macro. Everyone attack. What do you guys think about this one?
It's like,
I,
what
I
are you
would
doing the whole time?
I would pair it with like attacking healer or something like everyone focus this person, not just saying hey I'm attacking this person just so you guys know. But
A scenario,
it's
I don't know.
probably
I think a scenario I've seen is at the end of a game where you get a kill, but you're still not ahead, and people back off. Like it could be kind of used for that situation where people still need to be attacking, but I don't know. It just seems you could just again attacking tank or attacking healer. Not you don't need this because you're not gonna. You're like what is everyone? I don't know. Everyone should be attacking the tank or the healer or the melee or the ranged. Everyone attack is just way too general. Like, does it want the healer to attack too? I guess I don't know.
I mean, I guess my personal opinion on this is that whenever I go into a feast match, the general flow, unless somebody says otherwise, is that your team will always be pushing, for the most part, until somebody spams a get back macro or stop pushing
Right.
macro. So to have like, hey, go attack. Uh, I think this is one of those things that the community will have to come up with a meta use of this command to make it mean anything. I think a good example, like Xer said, is that everyone attack, and then pair it with something else to say we're attacking this guy now. Pay attention. Or
But there's no
the other
sound
use I could
effects,
see
so
is
I don't know.
if it's one of the 80% of games where your team has split damage on different targets because nobody's focusing. Everyone attack and then spam the person that you're supposed to attack. So the last one, fall back. I don't see anything wrong with this. It's basically
Probably the best one.
Yeah, it's basically used by most people. Um, the only personal thing that I have is that I have two separate ones that says don't push, get back to the middle when your team pushes too much into the enemy base, and then I have one that specifies to fall back to the base, for example, at the end of the match when you're ahead. But honestly, I don't think that will be a big deal.
Yeah, good macro. I like that one. I already have one, so just swap it out.
Yeah. So
it'll even be useful in front.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, definitely in front lines. That's what we can say too. Like some of this stuff is actually useful in front lines.
So now that we've been through all of them, and I think a common topic that keeps coming up is people keep saying, "Oh, I'm going to spam this if I want somebody to do something." Because I think spamming, when it comes to macros, at least when I spam them, is that it creates a sense of urgency and also it helps to make your teammates aware. One of the issues that I see with this is that there's no sound effects tied to it. So, if people aren't getting a little blip telling them to look at chat, I think a lot of these are going to get missed. But do you guys think that spamming these is going to cause reports? Do you think people will get reported and have action taken against them for spamming macros with the new system?
I mean, I think it would be pretty fucking ballsy by Square Enix to put this into counter toxicity and say this is all you got, and then turn around and ban someone for using their system in a way that they didn't expect. But you never know. They've shocked me before.
One person at least in the whole game will get banned by spamming.
Yeah,
In my
someone will get
opinion.
banned
One
for
person.
fucking spam for some reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
because their GM team is just so disconnected with what's actually supposed to be happening and how people actually play the game.
Yeah.
So I've actually received a warning for using macros, and it was under the category of spam, and pretty much the same stuff as this. So I really hope nobody gets banned using this, especially since this is all we have. But I can't see this working in the long run.
Yeah, actually, I've also my very first report in PvP was because I used a macro 14 times in a row. I had a Dark Knight that was sitting without grid on and had 5 stacks, and my macro says, please use Grit, Defiance, Shield Oath. If you don't do this, you're going to die, right? Because I can't heal through that. That's why they're going to die. So I got reported. I got banned. I think it was for like 3 days. And the reasoning they gave me was that not only was it spam, but also that my macro was abrasive because I told the person that they were going to die. So
You should have put knocked out, and you have to add
you're
like
going to be KO'd.
prefix it with please, and at the end, thank you, and you could be passive aggressive and maybe get away with it.
But yeah, I think the point of that is, by past example, people will probably still get action taken against them for spamming these ones, which is
Yeah,
extremely
and
unfortunate.
I mean, to me, it's like these macros are say they're useful, right? Say they're nice. Some of them are pretty good, but at the same time, like unless it's downtime, it's really hard to just like watch chat and read it. Like having a sound effect is to me is like that's the one thing that's missing from the is like some
Yeah.
some way to add like a sound effect to it. I don't know.
So I mean that's basically our opinions on the macros that are here, the macros that are being provided to us. Now I want to talk about the macros that are missing. Um, Basically what I want to get at is let's not talk about specific macros. Like if you have one that you personally think is, good for you. I'm going to try to keep it general and, what macros are missing that are crucial to gameplay for specific roles. Marshall, as a fellow healer, I'm sure you know the one that I'm going to talk about. Can you guess what it is?
Yeah, give me mana, MP, please.
Yeah, so basically the key one that I think is missing, at least for the healer role, is that there's nothing here that says that you're out of MP, which can mean a lot of things. If you have a bard or a machinist on your team, it means that they can give you MP. My experience, at least over almost 3,000 matches that I've played over the course of the feast, is that most people in that role don't pay attention to your MP bar. A lot of people don't have the party bar in the middle of their screen, and they're obviously not watching their healer's MP. Some very skilled people are in that role, but generally, if you hit the macro, if you say, hey, I need you to use your PvP ability that gives me MP, hey, I need you to play me Ballad, I need you to put up your MP turret, then the people will do it, but they don't pay attention and do it themselves. And even if you don't have people in that role, if you have a summoner or a black mage, you can still tell your team that you're out of MP, so maybe you need to fall back. Or maybe they need to chill out and play a little bit more defensively. So that's the big one for me, at least, that I see as missing. Another one, and this is a minor one, is just telling people to stand in certain AoE areas, such as Prism, Asylum, whatever the other one is, Sacred Soil. That one is one that I personally think is very, very important to white mages in particular, but I don't think it's going to be an end-all be-all. The MP one, however, I think absolutely will be. So, sir, I know there's a few for tanks. I wasn't sure if you thought that any of those were critical.
Uh, there's two I can think of. Primarily for Paladin, a diminishing return timer would be really helpful. Being able to time when people are not immune to stun or sleep or stuff like that is really useful for tanks and for healers also. So not being able to time DR just sort of creates another layer of reliance on someone on outside means to do it. I'm not saying ACT, but like it's hard to just to remember a minute, in Feast. There's so much going on that, I myself have a DR macro that I use so I know when I can stun a healer again. And not having a macro like that in here is gonna be, it's not gonna be fun. Another one, like we discussed earlier, is a purify me macro. Healers use that sometimes. Other classes can use that if they have full swing. And that leads into the last one, which is full swing. That's a super important tank ability that you need your team to know is up on somebody, because they usually they're not aware enough to see that the icon is up on them. And so not being able to tell someone, I'm putting full swing up on this person so you can do more damage, just removes that teamwork aspect that we are saying this is hurting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the full swing one too. Like, it it's something that people will have to be aware about moving forward. But it's one of those things that the game doesn't help you at all in making you aware by taking out the systems that were already in place to help you. I think my personal opinion is that a cover macro is also pretty critical to playing Paladin. Being able to tell somebody when they're covered really changes the way that they play. And a lot of times, I mean, especially personally on healer, it's hard to tell when a paladin is trying to cover you.
That's true. Yeah. It leads to
Um,
a lot of instant deaths sometimes when you cover the wrong person or you cover them during a burst.
yep. Are there any more macros that we think are missing here that should be in?
I would
Uh,
say that to go along with full swing, just in general, there should just be a burst macro because whether it's full swing or whether you're using your burst or whether you're an ninja using trick attack or whatever it is, or a dark knight using whatever their thing is, soul survivor,
yeah.
whatever it is. I mean, burst could cover all of that, at least at the very minimum.
Yeah, just a like my burst is ready macro that can apply to almost every DPS, even some tank classes. That would be really helpful in letting your team know that you can pump out a lot of damage on a certain person right now.
Mhm.
Another macro could maybe be like play defensive. There are a lot of situations where a tank will have a certain number of stacks and they will need to stop really going into the fray and start kiting around and start making themselves harder to attack for other people so you can sort of keep a lead. That would be useful to have.
To go along with that, I would say one that checks the time, saying like there's 2 minutes left or there's 1 minute left or something like that. Something that checks the timer on the clock because people don't
That
watch
would be
it.
really nice. That would
It
be
would be nice
really
to have a
nice.
macro where you're like, there's the 1 minute left. Like back the fuck up. Fallback may not work for that. Like people need to know that there's 1 minute left. You don't need to keep fighting. Like just chill, play defensively.
Like the everyone attack macro, that should just be replaced with bursting target. Like that would be nice. That makes it useful.
Okay, so I think we've spent enough time at least talking about the macros. There is one final piece of very important information, at least pertaining to Feast players, uh, that I had actually missed, and I just saw now under the macro section of the patch notes. So for those that don't know, there has been an exploit that has become pretty popular this season in the Feast. And I actually hadn't seen it before until this season, where players will queue up, it will show the 8 out of 8 are ready, and it will lock you into the match. However, when you get in, one of the players will be missing because they disconnected after they accepted the queue. What this does, it's been used to win trade in the Feast. It creates imbalanced matches, and it's just not fun for anybody. And because with this system, it didn't give you a penalty, you could just keep doing it over and over. Basically, what they're saying here is that if you're unable to join and minimum party requirements are not met when the duty commences, all party members in the party will be automatically removed from the duty. What this doesn't specify is if this counts as a loss, but I would hope not. Even if it's just like a loss on your win record, but losing no points, I would still hope that they take that into consideration.
Yeah, I would really hope it's just like a draw for everybody. Nobody gets points, nobody loses points.
Yeah.
It would remove the shadiness of it being used to get people points and make other people lose points.
Mm-hmm. But basically, I think this is a good thing. Like, I think that while this is a very subtle change and it doesn't affect that many people, it's still good that they looked at this system, saw that it was happening, and they made changes to it.
Yeah.
Now, if only they would move forward and deal with some of the other win trading systems, but I'm not really going to get into that too much here.
I will
So,
say that I think it's more has to do with people disconnecting than anything else. I'm willing to bet that they didn't go, oh, hey, this has been used to win trade. They probably were like, oh, disconnecting causes the match to start with 7 people. That's a problem. Which is it still fixes it, but I don't think that they are addressing win trading by looking at this.
I mean, it's it's a byproduct then, because I don't think that anybody has ever done that legitimately. Or maybe they have, and that was what sparked the method, but so I think that about wraps up the patch notes here. Do you guys have any comments about the Garo event? How you think that we'll be getting the mounts, etc.?
Well, my overall opinion of the Garo event is good. I think it's really nice that they're trying to incentivize more people to get into PvP. I think it's going to be good for the community as a whole. It's going to introduce a lot of people who may not PvP to the systems, and maybe they'll like it and stick around. I think the armor looks really cool. I'm hoping it's not just a pure wolf grind. I'm hoping there's some depth to it, but it looks like it's going to be a wolf grind, which is fine. So long as PvP is active, I think it's going to be a positive thing for the game mode.
What I'm hoping is that because there's 3 mounts, one of them is for getting all the sets. Like there's just an achievement for completing the set or wearing all the set at once. Because like how there's like 3 random achievements that are in like the items category where it's like you wear all the pirate gear, you get an achievement or something. Like you get 3 achievements, or you get achievements for wearing everything, and then that's like 1 meta achievement. You get 1 mount for like say Frontlines wins, 1 mount for Feast wins. So they're all sectioned off into specifics, but hopefully that gets people to dabble into like different areas of the Feast or different areas of PvP, where they're like you need to play this many Frontlines matches or win this many to get one of the mounts, or win this many Feast matches to get another one, or collect the gear to get another one. I think the gear is just going to be the new PvP gear based on what we've seen.
Yeah, my thought is that I think that I agree one of the mounts will probably be from collecting all of the armor or something similar to that. I would also like to see one just being Frontlines participation, and maybe the other one being Wolves Den participation. Maybe both Fold and Feast, or maybe just Feast.
Yeah, I think the content was introduced just to get people to try more PvP in the game. So
Yeah,
hopefully it
if
touches
they do
everything.
one, yeah, if they do one for each, it just gets people involved in both. The queues get better for both. Like some people will probably do it until they get the rewards and never do it again. Some people might stick around. Who knows?
Yeah, so I think we're about, we've covered all of the important topics. There was one topic we didn't get to, which was the end of season rewards not being announced. However, we have, it did take us a little bit longer to get through the macros than I thought it was going to take. So we can save that for a different episode. The end of the season isn't for another month, so we can definitely get to it before that happens. I would like to say my closing thoughts. A lot of big things are coming up for PvP, and it's pretty exciting. I want to thank everybody that came on today. Marshall, Quest, and Sir Zarek. Marshall and Sir actually both stream. I'm sure the majority of you watching right now have probably watched them stream, but I'm going to post their Twitches in the chat. If you go give them a follow, that would be awesome. They post some pretty fun gameplay, and they're very good players, so you could probably learn a lot from watching them. And another announcement that I do want to make is that, obviously this is the first episode of the podcast. It's very much a production. It's in the process of becoming better. If you have an idea for an episode that you want to do, if you have specific guests that you would like to see, or I'm sure, Marshall was talking about doing interviews earlier. If you have interviews that you really want to know about, like if there's players that you really want to know their opinions, please reach out, let me know, and we can try to make something that's for you guys. So I think to round this out, I'd like to say thank you guys all for coming out. We're going to end the show here. So Marshall, Quest, Sir, thank you guys again.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Yeah, special thank you to Sir, because